Israel has launched a barrage of strikes on southern Lebanon as cross-border tensions continue to rise.
Keeping the lights on and the heating going. EU pledges more winter aid for Ukraine. Far-right and centre-right form a majority on a vote in the European Parliament for the first time.
Outgoing NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said NATO's door was open for Ukraine to join and that it was closer than ever before. He made the comments during a farewell speech reflecting upon his 10-year tenure at the head of the alliance. During that time, NATO strengthened its defences from 0 to tens of thousands of soldiers on its eastern flank.
I do not believe that we can change Putin's mind. But I do believe that we can change his calculus. By giving Ukraine more weapons, we can make Putin realize he cannot get what he wants by force, and make it so costly that he will have to accept Ukraine has a sovereign democratic right to persist as a sovereign democratic nation.
Stoltenberg will step down from his role as Secretary-General at the end of this month to be replaced by former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary-General.
Flooding continues to ravage parts of Europe as Storm Boris presses on with its path of destruction. Around 1,000 people were evacuated across northern Italy after torrential rains and severe flooding. Rivers burst, with local officials urging people to stay on the upper stories of their homes or leave them outright. Hundreds had to find shelter in schools or sports centres. In the Czech Republic, new areas were threatened as the massive flooding continued moving across the area. The Interior Minister said another person was reported killed in the hard-hit northeast, bringing the death toll there to 5. Helicopters distributed humanitarian aid while soldiers and emergency services participated in cleanup and recovery efforts. Residents of the southwestern Polish town of Kłodzko began cleaning up damage after a local river rose almost 3 times above its alarm level. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said the situation in Kłodzko was the most dramatic in the entire country. So much was destroyed in the houses of residents in Lower Austria, there is now huge amounts of garbage. However, the large waste incineration plant in Dornrohr was flooded and therefore at a standstill. Flooding in Central Europe combined with deadly wildfires in Portugal are proof of a climate breakdown that will become the norm unless drastic action is taken, according to the EU's head office.
As the winter approaches, millions of Ukrainians have been left with limited access to electricity. The country is suffering from major power cuts on a daily basis. President von der Leyen announced on Thursday new EU support for Ukraine's energy security to keep people warm and the economy running. She also announced her visit to Kiev on Friday.
We will make an additional amount of close to 160 million euros available for this winter. This includes 60 million euros in humanitarian aid for shelters and heaters, for example. And it includes around 100 million euros for repair works and renewables. And these 100 million euros come from the proceeds of the immobilized Russian assets in the European Union. Because it is only right that Russia pays for the destruction it caused. We know that more is needed, so we must keep transferring part of the proceeds from immobilized Russian assets to Ukraine's energy resilience.
Approximately half of Ukraine's energy infrastructure has been destroyed, removing 9 gigawatts of power generation capacity. The EU Commission is now aiming to restore and export 4.5 gigawatts to Ukraine. But the Russian war in Ukraine also has consequences for energy prices in the EU. In a letter sent to the Commission President, the Greek Prime Minister called for European ways to address the effects of the war on the energy market.
We know that we have in Europe, compared to the rest of the world, structurally too high energy prices. And one very clear goal of the new Commission, but also described in the Draghi report, is to lower structurally the energy prices.
Once again, von der Leyen underlined that renewable energy and energy efficiency must play a big role in the EU's answer. The European Commission has asked Apple to open its operative systems iOS and iPadOS to other companies. Brussels wants Apple products to connect easily to other devices like smartwatches and headphones from other brands. The Commission wants the US company to map out the steps it plans to take to grant interoperability in an effective and fair way with iPhones and iPads. To comply with the Digital Markets Act, Apple must grant free and effective interoperability to rival businesses. The company is also being asked to establish a clear procedure for rivals to send their interoperability requests. Apple now has 6 months to make the changes. The European Parliament has recognized Edo Gonzalez, the candidate of the opposition, as the legitimate president of Venezuela. The chamber rejected the official results of the presidential election held at the end of July and condemned the repression and attacks on civil society under Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro.
And it is adopted.
This is a step further compared to EU member states, which did not recognize Maduro as a legitimate president, but neither González is the winner. 309 MEPs voted in favor, among them the members of the EPP, the largest political group in the parliament.
Ese reconocimiento a lo evidente, lo que las actas electorales que se han distribuido fuera de Venezuela demuestra claramente la victoria de Edmundo González y de la oposición democrática ante este régimen dictatorial.
The European People's Party voted together with the groups further to the right, the European Conservatives and Reformists, Patriots for Europe and Europe of Sovereign Nations, forming a new majority in the parliament for the first time in this legislature. The Liberals also generally condemned Maduro's persecutions and rejected the official results, but the Renew Europe group abstained because they did not want to vote with the far right. Socialists, Greens and the left voted against.
Ninguno de los 27 países de la Unión Europea lo ha hecho, ni la Unión Europea lo ha hecho, y de hecho de toda la comunidad internacional, solo 2 países, Panamá y Ecuador, han realizado este reconocimiento. Nosotros tenemos indicadores sobre el resultado, pero no tenemos todo el cuerpo electoral. Y nos parece que no somos un órgano legítimo para reconocer un resultado electoral cuando no tenemos todas las actas y todos los datos.
The resolution also requests an international arrest warrant for Nicolás Maduro for crimes against humanity on the basis of, quote, grave violations of human rights.
Como nuevo ministro del Poder Popular.
The flames have finally receded in Albar, Alvelha, but normality is still far away. At the entrance of the city, there are hectares of burnt and fallen trees, auto dealerships with charred cars, and houses on which only the outer walls remain.
Segunda-feira de manhã foi aqui em Albergaria, foi a altura mais dramática para nós. Tínhamos muitas frentes ativas, nomeadamente ali mesmo às portas da cidade do continente, vários bairros evacuados também. Foram momentos difíceis para todos. Poucos recursos, os bombeiros estavam muito dispersos.
O vento era muito, quando deram para o fogo estava perto de nossas casas. Nós não tínhamos bombeiro, ligávamos, mas não havia bombeiro, não havia que chegue. Só vinham mais se fosse perto de casa mesmo, mas mesmo assim nós ficámos sem água, ficámos sem luz, ficámos sem nada. Tínhamos a vala onde nós íamos buscar um bocadito de água, que ainda passa um bocadinho, e assim combatemos e fomos combatendo até a gente se livrar dele.
The few people who go out on the streets of the city centre wear masks because of the smoke and ash particles in the air.
Acima de tudo, o pior foi mesmo o fumo. Houve alturas que respirar só mesmo dentro de casa, porque cá fora era impossível vir.
Ardume na garganta, não é? E respirar tive que pôr hoje tive que pôr uma máscara, porque eu não conseguia respirar, não é? E no trabalho também tive que pôr. Era muito fumo de manhã, a fábrica estava cheia de fumo, praticamente.
A few kilometres north in Sever de Vuga, the fires are now under control, but the firefighters are exhausted after 3 nights without sleep.
O governo já declarou situação de calamidade em todos os municípios afetados pelos incêndios nos últimos dias. Aqui em Albergaria Velha, a situação aparenta estar mais calma, apesar da nuvem de fumo que se adensa sobre a região. Joana Marão Carvalho, para a Euronews, em Albergaria.
First time in its history, metal detectors will be used at Oktoberfest, world-famous Bavarian beer festival. Longer lines at entry points expected as 6 million participants are foreseen, and it will be prohibited to bring knives, glass bottles or backpacks.
Absolute Garantie gibt, weil natürlich auch auf der Wiesn mit Messer und Gabel gegessen wird und es dann natürlich möglich ist, das zu tun. Trotzdem müssen wir es verhindern, dass jemand ein Messer oder sonstigen gefährlichen Gegenstand einbringt.
Security is tighter in the wake of last month's deadly knife attack in Solingen in western Germany, which left 3 dead and 8 wounded.
Die Wiesn ist genauso sicher oder unsicher wie der öffentliche Raum ist, allerdings mit der Maßgabe, dass wir hier Kameraüberwachung haben, dass wir hier Zugangskontrollen haben, dass ein Zaun drumherum ist, dass wir mehrere tausend Polizisten in Uniform, in Zivil haben, mehrere tausend Sicherheitskräfte. Und ich glaube, das zeigt schon, dass die Wiesn ein sehr, sehr sicherer öffentlicher Raum ist.
Oktoberfest had security concerns before, and some tight measures were also implemented in 2016 in response to a series of attacks. Authorities say there are no specific threats to the world's largest folk festival this year, but the mood of the country right now is to be better safe than sorry. The festival begins on Saturday and runs until the 6th of October.